Winona Laduke, hello my relatives. Thank you very much for the honor of being here with you today. It's always great to be the last person on the panel because then you can reflect a little bit on what your fellow panelists have spoken on. And so, again, thank you for your words on food sovereignty. I really like the discussion of autonomy as how we organize hope, and of course Rodriguez's critical work on analyzing the elements of how culture and colonialism impact us all. I am going to talk about the construct of Minogabata-Zebulon, which is an Anishinaabe concept of pretty much the gross national happiness index in an Anishinaabe construct, and Wendigo economics, which is our term that we use, which is, Wendigo is the word for a cannibal. And that is generally how I refer to capitalist economics and industrial economic model. So I have some slides, and I think I just say this. Return one? Okay, then, but I have to start with my mother. This is my mother. Her name is Betty Laduke. She is 85 years old. She's very robust. And this is my mother in San Miguel Allende in 1955 as a visiting artist, and she worked there for 3 years. And so she met my father, or I probably would have been born Mexican national. And this is my mother's art. But I just wanted to recognize my mother and her work here in Mexico many years ago, before my birth. Next picture. A little bit about a construct. So I'm Anishinaabe, I'm from northern Minnesota, the Great Lakes people. I like to talk about our art to begin with because your art is a reflection of who you are spiritually as a people. This is the art of Anishinaabe people, and what you see is very different from Western art forms, but inside our art you see these spirit lines and these lines which connect the beings. And that is very much a reflection of not only, I believe, an Anishinaabe worldview, but an indigenous worldview, this construct of Indino and that we are all related. And I believe that those are some of the basic constructs of how you keep a sustainable society. Is to understand some basic constructs. In our Anishinaabe worldview, there are some basic constructs. One is to understand that the Creator's law, or the laws of Mother Earth, are the highest laws. Higher than the laws made by nations, states, or municipalities. Mother Earth's laws are the highest laws. A second is this construct that we are all related. No matter if you are little, with little crawly things, you have wings or fins or roots, we are still relatives. We are all related. A third is this construct of understanding that the world is alive, full of spirit, has standing unto itself. Not just us as humans, but in my language, as in many other indigenous languages, the word even asin, the word for stone or rock, is an animate noun, indicating this larger understanding of the world, and understanding also the concepts of cyclical thinking and reciprocity. That is to say, if you want to have an economy which is going to last, don't have a linear economy. You have to have an economy which is a cyclical economy, which reaffirms relationship and reciprocity. So those are some basic constructs which have to do with our worldview. Next slide, please. This is where I live. This is my village. This is our wild rice, our monoman. Behind me, I'm on a dock with my friend Don Goodwin. And that behind me is a lake covered with wild rice. And all I have to do is take care of my ecosystem and my lakes, keep my water good, keep the water levels good, pray with my offerings, and each year for 10,000 years the rice comes to that lake. So that is how you have a long-term relationship and a long-term economy, is you have a place and you take care of it. So that is what wild rice looks like. It grows, and the only place in the world that it grows is in our territory. The next picture. This is just an example of what we are dealing with, and everyone has spoken of it in many ways here. Colonial economics, capitalist economics. It's an entirely different worldview than a worldview that is predicated on a reaffirmation of your relationship to place, on a reaffirmation of your set of relationships, whether they are with living beings in human form or whether it is with your plant relatives. This is what I would call a Wendigo economy. And I, as you may gather, I'm an economist by training. Having gone to school at Harvard and MIT, I have a pretty good sense of what an economic model looks like. And everybody in this room knows that either a growth, a key Keynesian or the dominant economic models are not sustainable. So this is my territory in the middle of the Wendigo economy. Just to give you a sense, I've had the privilege of speaking to some of you about this, but I'm in the epicenter of the single largest pipeline battle in North America. I have a pipeline called Enbridge, the Enbridge Corporation, largest pipeline corporation in the world, a Canadian corporation. Most of my problems originate with Canadian mining corporations, as do most of the problems in Mexico. Mostly it is Canadian mining corporations, since they're 75% of the world's mining corporations. It is also the largest pipeline corporation in the world, which is Enbridge. And so what we have is aging infrastructure everywhere. North America, the United States, we have a D in infrastructure. I know that Mexico probably has a D minus in infrastructure, but we have a D in infrastructure in North America. What that means is that every sewer system is crumbling. Every water pipeline is crumbling, and every gas and oil pipeline is crumbling, because they've been there for 50 years. And you have corporations that instead of wanting to clean up their mess, instead of wanting to rectify this, want to build new pipelines. And so I am in this place where I have 6 pipelines which come from Enbridge towards my territory, from Alberta, the tar sands. And I have 2 pipelines brought to me by the Koch brothers, who come through my territory. We have no oil in our territory, but what we have is Lake Superior, the furthest inland port in the United States. And so for the past 6 years of my life, I've been fighting pipelines. I'm an economist by training, mostly energy issues, but I had no idea about pipelines. But what I will tell you is that in 2016, after a 4-year battle, we defeated a very large pipeline by the Enbridge Corporation, known as the Sandpiper. It was to bring piped oil out of the fracking of North Dakota, the fracked oil fields of North Dakota, known as the Bakken Formation across our territory. This is what, after we defeat the pipeline, that corporation, the Enbridge Company, purchased 28% of a pipeline known as the Dakota Access Pipeline. And the Dakota Access Pipeline is the pipeline which now crosses just north of the Standing Rock Reservation in North Dakota. So we defeated them in Minnesota in 2016. A few days later, they announced the purchase of 28% interest in another pipeline, which was the Dakota Access Pipeline. And so everybody here knows quite well that when you have a society that is based on continuing levels of consumption, you consume a third of the world's resources, it requires constant intervention into other people's territories, constant violations of other people's human rights, and the militarization of a state to protect the interests of corporations. And that is what we all clearly saw in Standing Rock. So I am a veteran of Standing Rock. I'm a veteran of many pipeline battles, defeated one in Minnesota, and then we went to North Dakota. But these are just a few pictures of when civil society is owned by corporations, what it looks like. And I'm sure there is nobody in this room who needs me to tell them that that is what has happened. Now this is one of my favorite pictures. This is one of my favorite pictures because I love these young men. And I actually want to be one of them, but I am 59 years old, so I cannot. But I did stand on the horse last week. And this is some art from Standing Rock. This is a piece of art put up by Charles Rencontre, and this is a replica of a pipe, a smoking pipe. Does this make sense to y'all? Like, yeah, for a pipe, yeah? And the bowl was that little man on it, and then he faced a bowl, and that bowl is where you put your tobacco in. And it was in a museum in New York, this pipe. And the pipe was called Not Afraid to Look at White Man. And this piece of art is that pipe effigy. It's called an effigy pipe, made into a large statue, which still stays in stand. Wait, you're making me dizzy. Can you not go so fast? Okay, we got that. And then this one, okay. Then go to the next one. So this is the map you saw before. We defeat one pipeline and come back with another. This sounds very similar to other people. This is a bigger pipeline. It is the single largest tar sands pipeline in North America. Now, for those of you who have been watching some of the dysfunctional economics, Windigo economics, Canada is the best example of that in the world. The Canadian economy is entirely predicated on the extraction of natural resources and the raping of the North. And Canada, despite its pristine image in the world in terms of its human rights, is an extreme violator of the rights of nature and the rights of Indigenous people. However, this last week, the Canadian Court of Appeals ruled against the Canadian government on a huge pipeline project and said that they did not have the consent. They did not have the consent of the Indigenous people and sent the other large Canadian pipeline back, nullified all of the certificates that had been awarded. And so a new battle ensues. And now we are the one large pipeline battle that is left between Canada and the United States. And I will tell you that it is brutal, and it will be very brutal this winter. And this is what it looks like on the ground in my community. This is what Enbridge was met with. This is, the face of resistance. The face of resistance is definitely people of all colors, and it is definitely in northern Minnesota dominated by Ojibwe. Okay, so here we are. This question of this post-Windigo regenerative economy. Let me tell you where we need to go. In our prophecies as Anishinaabe people, we were told that this is the time of the seventh fire. And in those prophecies, we are told that we will, as Anishinaabe people, we will have a choice between two paths, two mikana. One path, they say, is well-worn, but it is scorched. And the second path, they say, is not well-worn, and it is green. And it will be our choice upon which path to embark. And that is what our prophets told us 1,000 years ago. And I'm pretty sure that that's where we are as Anishinaabe people, but I'm pretty sure that's where we all are. That is why we're having this discussion about degrowth. And to me, and I think everybody here, it is not just about degrowth, it is about an entire restructuring of civil society. It's about an economic restructuring of dominant economic models so that they are sustainable. So let me talk a little bit about what that looks like from my perspective. I refer to this as the Sitting Bull plan. I discussed it a little bit yesterday in our presentation, but that is to say that in the post-World War II era, there was a plan known as the Marshall Plan. And what you need is a new plan which will do an ecological restoration, whether it is of coral reefs to areas that are desertified. You need, obviously, to move from a chemically based agriculture system and a fossil fuels-based agricultural system to one which is based on organic agriculture. You need to transform from energy systems which are based on extraction, nuclear power, and constant inefficiencies to ones that are based on, did I lose this here? Hello? Is it back? Okay. To one that is based on localized efficiency, the best technology that is appropriate, and scaled so that it does not disrupt the world. And everybody here knows this. But there was a great leader from our community, a Lakota leader many years ago. He was a great political theorist, a great military theorist, and a philosopher. And what he said is that we must put our minds together to make a future for children. And to me, that is the essence of this, because there's a lot of people who are super smart, and there are a lot of politicians who are like the Trump administration who have this vision that is so devastating. But what we must do is we must bring our minds together, put aside our differences, put aside a lot of ego, frankly, and say this is how we're going to make a future for our children. So that is what Sitting Bull said a long time ago. So I don't call it the Marshall Plan, I call it the Sitting Bull Plan. So let me talk about how that works in a community. I like what Brother Ben said, I forgot his name here, but about autonomy is the way of organizing hope. Stop. Autonomy is the way of organizing hope. So I represent basically communities that are autonomous, indigenous communities in northern Minnesota. And this is our plan. We looked at our food economy, and it is a mirror of food economies elsewhere. 86% of our money, we spent $8 million on food, of which almost all of it was spent off reservation, off reserve, buying food, bringing it in. From Walmart or from, whoever it is, right? And so what we want to do is eliminate the leak. Every community here is facing similar hemorrhaging of their local economies, where what comes in does not circulate, and we buy too much from outside. And all of that which we bring in from outside does not, in the end, do us much good. So here is what our plan is. It is local food. As my brother from Villa Campesino, I'm also a farmer, and I've shown this picture, but it is local food, because in the time of climate change, it'll cost, I think it's $14 billion to invent new varieties by Monsanto. But if you adapt to your indigenous varieties that are built for you, that are adapted already in your ecosystem and are intelligent plants, you will be able to survive by eating your own food. So we are restoring our indigenous corn varieties. Next one. This is our wild rice, the centerpiece of our food sovereignty and our food security. This is on Wild Rice Lake here a couple years ago. Next one. This is energy. In the middle of the tar sands, this woman, Winona Laduke, a great leader, did on her master's thesis at the University of Victoria, put up 20 kilowatts of solar in a village that only had a diesel generator at their health clinic. And I tell you this story because in the middle of the tar sands in northern Canada, a diesel generator at a health clinic in a tribal community. That's what third world conditions in first world looks like. That is our communities. So for her master's thesis, instead of doing an analysis, she just put it up. She did 20 kilowatts. And that is part of what I think is important for academics to do, is just do it. Don't write it, just do it. This is me. After I read the thesis, I put up 20 kilowatts to power our tribal school. That's our 20 kilowatts that is for our tribal school in my village. Next one. This is my hemp project. So I'm a hemp grower. For 3 years I've been growing hemp. I cannot grow anything with THC. I can only grow hemp varieties that have no THC. But I'm growing hemp because I'm interested in the textile industry. Because today, the textile industry, particularly cotton, it takes about 5,000 gallons of water to produce a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. 1/4 of all pesticides used in the world are used on cotton. And so why would we continue an economy that is so exploitive? And why would we not relocalize our economy? So in the state of Minnesota, we had 11 hemp mills until the year 1943, and we grew all of our own clothes. And so I want to restore a local textile economy by growing hemp. This is some of the analysis of the uses of hemp, which is legal in my state. And then the next one. This is my sons. Well, these two in the middle are my sons. This is my partner, this is my brother, this is my nephew in my hemp field. And today we are harvesting seeds in my hemp field so that we can offer those seeds for other tribal communities, because as you may have figured, when they made hemp illegal in the United States, the only seeds you could get are now from Europe or from China. And so I'm trying to rebuild and adapt local seed varieties so that we can grow hemp in northern Minnesota again. And I have 8 acres of solid fiber hemp. Next one. And then this is this story of the 7th fire. This is my village. This village is called Pine Point. This is a still shot from a film that depicted the drug epidemic in my community. So my community is like a lot of other communities. There's a lot of historic trauma. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of oppression. There's a lot of self-medication. There's a lot of self-hatred. And so this picture is from this film. And we didn't like the film, but it was a snapshot of our reality. And so we decided to make beautiful our community. So here is what we are doing in my one village. Next one. We decided to do murals. And I was in Oventique. I saw the murals there. I also saw the murals in San Francisco, in Balmy Alley, I think it's called. And I said we should do murals to make our village beautiful too. So we started to do these murals. Next one. This is a tribal housing project in the middle of my reservation. that we decide to make beautiful. Next one. This is our solar thermal panel manufacturing facility that we are doing. Solar thermal is something that captures the heat on a south-facing wall, and it brings the heat into your house and can save 20% of your heating bill. When combined with efficiency and, for instance, wood heat and solar energy, you can be entirely self-sufficient in northern Minnesota, which is a pretty big challenge for us. But my community suffers from fuel poverty, where each winter people have to decide if they are going to heat or eat. And so I'm interested in reducing the misery in my village by providing heat. And so we are building these, we're in the process of building the manufacturing facility to produce these, as well as then offer them for installation throughout our region. Next one. As you know, in the larger picture, I can tell you that the aspects of food, energy, and fiber, and housing, and how you rebuild an autonomous indigenous economy based on our values. In the larger regulatory discussion, work like those of, you know, the country of Bolivia or the country of Ecuador, as flawed as their systems may be, but in forwarding the precepts and understanding of the rights of Mother Earth, and that those rights of Mother Earth must supersede the rights of corporations, the rights of nation states, and the rights of municipalities. Is an essential part of a framework. Because the truth is that no future plan can go without a regulatory and a legal system, which basically deconstructs the colonial legal system we now have, based, as we all know, on understandings out of the Catholic Church and the papal bulls, which said, you know, that people who were not Christian did not have rights and were not humans. If you're going to build a new legal system, you have to build a legal system which reaffirms the values that are values of Mother Earth and the values of sustainability. And so that is part of the work that we are interested in our community as well. These are my grandsons, just to show you a picture. And all horse riders, having a good day and a good life. So, you know, in my thinking, we do the hard work, but make sure as we do it, we make it beautiful. To be beautiful. That's how we say that. Because it is not just about what is in your mind and in your heart. It is also that when we make this future, our future is going to be beautiful. Awesome. Wait, that last picture there. Go back one. And this, I show it a couple times, but this is our mural. And I also, you know, I wanted to honor the social movements here in this country, because this is what water protectors look like in northern Minnesota. And that is what the Enbridge Corporation is facing, as they are facing tens of thousands of people who are water protectors. So this is a mural in the city of Duluth, where Indigenous women disappear, Indigenous women are murdered, but Indigenous women are not seen. But this Indigenous woman is about 60 feet tall. She's in downtown Duluth, and she is a water protector. That is what I am. I'm a water protector. And I'm really proud of our work in our community to reaffirm how beautiful we are, and to bring that into the public. Nonetheless. And this is us at Honor the Earth. We wish, thank you for your time.